I'm Dean Cipolla, and this is the Azure Academy. So there is a big announcement that came out on Thursday. Let's just look over at the documentation page, and we'll go up to the blog, and we scroll down just a little bit. We'll get down here to introducing Microsoft Azure Sentinel, intelligent security analytics for the entire enterprise. This is something that we have been waiting for a long time. What exactly is the Sentinel, and why should anybody care? The Sentinel is where we make Azure a native SIM tool. So when you want to take all of your data analytics in the cloud and send them back to on-prem to Symantec, McAfee, Splunk, or any other tool, now you could do all of that same analysis right in the cloud, and it's built on something that you have all been using for a while, and that is log analytics. So let's look at this announcement here just real quick. Basically, what we get down to here is some pretty cool stuff, and we'll come back and look at these graphics and explain some of this in more detail. Over on the Azure products page, here is another announcement related to Sentinel, and it is in preview. Okay, so this is all subject to change, but at this point, this is public preview and can be accessed by anybody. So you can watch a video here, give you a good high level on what it does, and here is a great session from Microsoft Mechanics talking about Sentinel and what it can do. They talk about it at a high level, and I'm going to show you how to get this thing set up and implemented. There is the Azure documentation specifically around Sentinel. This is preview documentation, so you can't get to it from the regular docs page, so I will link this in the description along with these other two links just so you can have them. Basically, at a high level here, what we're going to look at is what is the Sentinel, what does it do, how do we do it, how's it built on log analytics. There's a whole lot of plugins that you can do. There's features in it for investigation, a new way of looking at investigation that we call hunting, where you're going to be able to dig through all the data and create dashboards, graphics, do threat analytics and automation on top of it to help you to secure your environment. Here we are in the Azure portal, and you can find Sentinel by going either to all services and searching in here, or just by typing it in at the top. And there is the Azure Sentinel preview, and I have that linked over on my quick start bar. When we get into the Sentinel workspace, you can see here that nothing is configured right now, and we just click on this button here to connect Sentinel to our workspace. So I've got one here, the Azure Academy Log Analytics. We'll click on that and hit Add Azure Sentinel. Now it pops up and we're brought to the Getting Started page. So there's basically three phases here. We're going to set up all of our data collectors, then we're going to be able to create alerts based on that, and then we can start to add some automation and some orchestration using some logic apps and playbooks. And there is a community of stuff that's already out there that we're going to connect into, and you're going to be able to see that, as well as a bunch of new features that are coming. Again, the Sentinel is in preview, so this will be a very high level look at what the capabilities are, and I'm sure we'll dig into this more in another video in the future. So let's collect some data. So first of all, right here in the overview, we can see that we've pulled in some data already, and let me pull as much data as we can. Okay, so this is a new log analytics workspace, so I think I just set this up yesterday, so I don't have that many events in it. Currently there is 4,500 events, and if we look at them, we can see that we've got some different stuff around metrics, diagnostics, activity logs, and other stuff. Now when we click on any one of these points, and we can see here's a lot of metrics data that we've already collected, and again, just so you're familiar again with log analytics, if you have forgotten from our previous video on the Azure Monitor where we covered this in depth, the schema search over here will allow you to filter and build these queries, and the Query Explorer also will help you to do that, and that all is dependent upon what solutions you onboard to log analytics. Just helps you to cut up the data and to get to what things you're particularly interested in. Some of these queries will produce charts and graphs, others do not, so it just depends on what data and how you are extrapolating information here. This is all built on the Kusto query language, which is how everything is moving now in Azure. So if you are not familiar with that, look back at our video on the Azure Monitor, where we get into that in a lot more detail. So graph down here will show where any malicious events originate from around the globe. Now currently, thankfully, I don't have any of those, but that's where that data would come in. So in this logs button here, this takes us right over to the log querying section where we can start to do some of that work. Now we'll come back to these guys in a second. So let's go to data collection. So this is where we have all of the different data points that are currently supported, and we can pull in things like Azure Activity Logs, Azure Active Directory, Threat Protection Analytics, Security Events, the whole Security Center, syslogs for Windows, Common Event Format for Linux, and then some stuff from AWS, Windows Firewall, our Web Application Firewall, Information Protection, and a bunch of different firewall vendors who are currently working with us. So lots of good stuff here, as well as Azure DNS. Now, depending on which particular things you are interested in, some of them are a one-click setup, some of them are a 2-3-click setup. So let's walk through some. So here's Azure DNS, and when we will hit enable, and that one's done. See how easy that was? Let's try another one. Here's the Azure Activity Logs. Okay, and this one, we go through here and we select what subscriptions we're interested in. I've already onboarded both of these guys. We'll click here to look at a querying sample, so we can go back to our logs space and paste our query in here. And there's the last 100 activity logs. Okay, so again, not so great for visualization because there's no common thread, but you can look here, listing storage account keys happened, diagnostic settings, lots of that as I was configuring this new workspace, so all bunch of stuff like that. So let's go back in here and set up the syslog configure. So this is where you could say, here's the Windows agent, here's the Linux agent, open the configuration blade, and there's where you can download that. I just did this for one of my on-prem systems. So to set up the syslog for Windows, Linux, or storage, System Center, other systems outside of here, treat them like on-prem systems, you know, anything that's running in AWS or Google or VMware, wherever you're running things. You can just install this agent by clicking this download button, download the particular agent package. You need the workspace ID and the key, and then you can set that up. And once you do, inside the control panel of your systems, you'll have the monitoring agent, just like SCOM. And here we have Azure Log Analytics, and you can see the particulars around the workspace ID and the workspace key and which cloud you're going to. Once all of that is set up, this system will become available in Security Center, in Log Analytics. You can manage them all in one place. All right, so let's connect our Azure Security Center. And it's as simple as hitting connect on any of the subscriptions and hitting apply change. Okay, and that is set up. Now, I can't show you the Azure Active Directory stuff because in my Azure AD tenant, I am not one of the global admins, so I don't have permissions to set that up. But if you did something else, like the Windows Firewall solution, or other things would be like a WAF, and it would tell you here that when you build a WAF, just set up diagnostic logs, and we'll send them right over. So normal log analytics practices. All right, so we've set up our Azure Activity Log, Security Center, DNS, Windows Firewall, syslogs, and the security events. So we've got a bunch of data collectors. Now, if we go back to the getting started, the next thing was to set up some security alerts. So that brings us to this analytics blade. Now, in the analytics blade, there's currently nothing here, so let's create an alert. Now, to create an alert, this is going to require that we have some kind of query. And then when we put in the query, then there will be some kind of results simulated based on that. And then you can further specify that for some mapping and triggers. So let's say that this one equals 10. And then later down the road, we're going to enable playbooks, which are the logic apps, so that we can get some of this stuff automated. So I'll just hit create here, and that's how we can go through and create an alert. Okay, and then the playbooks that are here, we've covered some of this inside our Azure Security Center, and so you can see it's brought that in for us here. And it just walks through the logic app, and you can look at the design of that, and then design your logic app however you want. This was just an example. Basically, an event is going to be triggered, it's going to send an email, and then the process is going to terminate. So you can write a better playbook than that, I'm sure. And then once that is done, then we have the automate, orchestrate, and now that does go to playbooks, but there's more stuff. And that more stuff is this threat management section. This is really, once we get all of this set up and configured, this is where the fun stuff can happen. Now, I don't have a lot of data here, so I can't show you much, but I can just talk you through what we've got. So cases, first of all, think of them like a package. They're a container of here's what happened, here's what we did, here's how we investigated, here's how we mitigated. Okay, so that's kind of how we're looking at a case. And then once we have that, then we also have this section on hunting. Now, hunting is where we get into all of these queries that we have loaded. You can write your own queries and have them in here. And then once you run these queries, then they'll give you some amount of data back based on these different categories. So the categories here are initial access, execution, persistence, defense, evasion, discovery, oh, missed one, sir, credential access, discovery, lateral movement, and then collection. And then in each one of these, you get a context menu so you can clone the query, make your own queries, and then also run them. So let's run all these queries, and we'll see if we get any data back. Okay, so we've gotten a bunch of data back here, and so new processes observed within 24 hours. So let's view this query result. All right, so we run that, and then we see here's all of the new processes that happen in the last 24 hours, and that is because I just installed this agent, so it's detecting everything as a new process, so that's to be expected. And let's look at something else here. Uncommon process files. There we go. There's a nice chart. All right, so showing all of the different kinds of data, and of course you can visualize this however it's going to work best for you. There we go, that one's pretty nice. So you can see a lot of this data here, and then you can dig into any one of these pieces of data a little more. So we could take this query and then go back to the analytics, and we can set up another alert. And we'll say that this is high, and we'll throw in our query here. And then you can see that we've got now an alert simulation showing, oh boy, something's happening. Okay, and then you can say your threshold is greater than, let's say, 5. And there's your period of 60 minutes and your frequency. And then once you have all of that configured to your liking, so now we've set a threshold, so we can see we're way above the threshold, so we're going to get an alert for sure. So we hit create. Okay, now we've got another alert. So this is what we do in hunting. Just go through, dig through some of these intelligent queries. We provided all of these for you, but you can definitely go ahead and create your own. So let's clone this query, and we'll give it a name and a description. Okay, and then you can give it whatever kind of tactic, and that's those categories that we were looking at. So I'll say that this one is going to light up all of them just because I can, and we'll hit create. Okay, and then at the bottom here, we've got our new one, so I'll star that so it's a favorite. Now let's go back to the query results. I want to show you how we can add another hunting feature, and that's called a bookmark. So let's take one of these guys, let's say the smart screen here, so I know when that's activated. You just open that up and click on the ellipse here, and you say add hunting bookmark. And then you give it a name, and we put in whatever kind of notes, and this is where we're keeping track of the kind of investigation that we're running as a result of whatever is going on. So smart screen was activated. Okay, we'll give it a tag of AA Sentinel and smart screen, and we know that this is related to that investigation. We'll click add on that, and then we go back to the hunting screen, and we go to bookmarks, and there she is. So that way we can store these things and keep track of them, whatever queries were involved, and then we can keep on working our investigation process. So something that's going to be added here pretty soon is the ability to take all this raw data and graph it out so we can visually see what's going on. So I'm going to hit register here for the private preview because I want to get access to this as soon as it's available, and I suggest you do the same. And basically what you're seeing here is threat analytics detecting something that happened. We pull it all up here in our case, we do our hunting, and then we're going to say that we're going to click on it and grab more detail, and that gives us more info as we go down the rabbit hole of this investigation. Okay, so very nice tool to visualize what's going on. And that brings us to notebooks. So notebooks are based on the Jupyter open source project, and basically it's where we can take the hunting and investigative processes to another level. This way we can make the Sentinel very extensible. So something that I'm personally not familiar with, not my area of expertise, but for you who know what Jupyter notebooks are, this should be very nice. And you can go out to your notebooks, which are out on the internet. You can try it now, and there's other kinds of solutions that are here for you. So kind of a way to help you do your analysis of what's going on. So the only other link that's here is the community links. And this is where we have the Sentinel community. So we're starting to put a lot of content out on GitHub for this. So if you go to Sentinel community, so here's our GitHub page. Now some of this stuff won't have data in it just yet, like for example Playbooks are coming soon, but we're going to have a lot of that posted up here. But some stuff is out here that's very useful. So let's go to like hunting queries and Azure Activity and say commonly deployed resources. Then we'll look at the raw just so we can copy it all, and then we can go back to the Sentinel, to logs, and then we can put that in our query and run it, and now we've got some information. And then of course you can add it to your hunting bookmark. Okay, so we gave it a name of Azure Resource Issue, tied it back to the other tag that we had, as well as gave it a note here. And so we'll hit add. Okay, and then we'll go back to hunting and to our bookmarks. Now we've got 2 bookmarks. Okay, so that's where the community is kind of taking things. So inside Dashboards, this is where we can create visualizations of all of our data. Again, I don't have a lot of data right now, but there's currently 25 dashboards. You can make your own, import them, etc. But I'm going to add some ones for Azure Activity, and then my Network Watcher, VM Insights. Okay, now where did they go? Well, if we go back to the dashboards for all of Azure, this is what mine looked like. So I had a bunch of stuff here for visualization of some metric data and some other stuff. I linked one of my videos up here. But now we've got dashboards provided by the Sentinel. So if we go to like Network Watcher, and by default, these all look at the last 24 hours. So I'm going to change this to 30 days, and then it asks you to publish your changes. Or if you don't publish, then you're just looking at your view of this. Once you publish, now that's going to be a change there for everyone. Okay, and again, like I said, I just set up this workspace, so I don't really have any data in here. But let's see, Azure Activity should give me something. That's 24 hours. Let's go back to 30 days. Okay, so it'll give you the visualization of some of your data, and again I had like 4,000 events in here, so I've got some stuff. And so just giving you events over time, the levels of activity, where the resource groups saw the most action, which types of activities were happening, stuff going on with deletes and creations over time, and then activity logs by group status, what's started, what's accepted. So a whole lot of stuff here that's there for you right away. So give me a comment below. Let me know what kind of stuff you're interested in and how we want to go about this going forward. So let me go back to the Sentinel. All right. Oh, so we've got a case. Oh boy, what's going on? Remember, we set up an alert before, right? So let's look at our cases. Okay, so here's my case, and this was for my processes to watch. And then we can click over here for the full details of what's going on. And again, this is just a simulated incident. And then you can see here's the accounts that are related to it. This was what you were doing. And then you can go to, we've got 19 hits because we set that result to be at 5. And so we've had a lot more than that. And again, this is just to show you what you could get out of it. And then you can also see what playbooks are going to be kicked off as a result of this. So there's my Sentinel playbook. So I'll run that, and of course that's going to only terminate the process, so it's not really going to do anything. So you could then say, I've run my playbook against this particular issue and alert. So this failed because I just set the process to terminate, but what I also did was I had it send me an email, and that was the alert that I got from my Logic app. Okay, so we know that it worked. And of course, like I said, you guys can write better Logic apps than I do. So I'm going to look forward to when the playbooks are in the community so I can take advantage of some of that stuff as well. Okay, and then you can take your status here. This is currently new. Now I can mark this as in process, so somebody is now investigating this, and I can call myself out as the owner of it. So I hope you've enjoyed this look at the new Azure Sentinel. Don't forget to comment, like the video, subscribe, hit that notification icon. We drop a new video on the channel about once a week. And give me a comment below. Let me know what you're interested in. Happy learning.